Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be making some tissue papers for collage, and this is my inspiration. This is a lovely glass sculpture a friend of mine gave me, and look at those beautiful yellows. I don't know if you can see that good. Look at those beautiful yellows with a little bit of the sienna color in there. Both shades of the Naples yellow and the yellow oxide are in there, and the sienna. These are my November colors I've been using from my November palette. And so I'm going to set this over here because that's my inspiration and I want to be able to look at it. And I'm going to be putting a lot of water on some of these. So I have this flat plastic box here, which I can lay things in, and they can get the water soaked in and sit there and not get my tabletop all dirty. And I'm just going to start by laying a couple pieces in here just to see what can happen. I don't know if I need to lay them that way, or if they're going to fit. Now, we'll just go this way. We might have a little bit of an overlap. And I'm going to start with the yellow oxide first. And this is acrylic paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some water on here, and I'm going to get this really, really liquidy just to see what happens. And I like to use this big round brush for that. And I'm just going to put some water. Actually, I'm going to spray some water on with the spray bottle and just get some water going. I want a really light wash of this. So I'm using a very wet brush and dipping it in there. I'm going to dip some more water on that brush, get it very liquidy, and I'm just going to start putting some on here and see what happens, just randomly. But by having the paint very liquidy, it spreads much better. Get a little more water, a little more of that paint on this one. I've done this with different kinds of paper, brown packing paper, parchment papers. I just decided to mess with the tissue papers today because I wanted to try some tissue papers in the colors on my November palette. Those look pretty good. I wonder if I put a little bit of this raw sienna in there, what that would look like. Which I can't get it open, so that's going to be a problem. There we go. This will give it some darker areas. I may use a smaller brush for this. And I'm gonna spray some more water on there. And let's try, I'm going to spray some water on the paint itself and get it a little more liquidy. It's better to do it like less is more, less is better in this case. And I'm just going to try to weave some of this color in through there. Might be better to do some of this with the Inktense, which I may try after I do these. And I just keep dipping this in the water to get the paint that's on the brush. And then I'll pick up a little more paint. Just kind of weave it around. Add some more water to spread it out a little bit. Just trying to get some of this. Oh, I got a really big glob of paint on there. Maybe just tap that on in certain spots and then add more water to it. That'd probably be the best since I have so much on there. Just trying to get some kind of pattern going with this sienna in through here. Now these take a little while to dry, so I'll have to turn my tray around. Now I'm going to get the big brush that had the sienna. It holds a lot of water, so I can drip some water in there and help those chunky areas spread out a little more. Just tapping that on there in those spots where that paint's a little bit on the chunky side. We don't want that. That actually looks pretty good. Got a little area on this edge of the paper. I want to get some of that sienna on there. Just kind of move it around a little bit. What else do I want to do? May try some of the lighter yellow, getting some of that in there. That may make it too light. This is the Naples yellow mixed with white. And I'm just going to get a teeny bit of that out and put on the palette. And let me try the small brush first and get some of that on there. See, just dot some of it in there in certain spots. Just in a random order, wherever I think it might be interesting. All right, let me get that big brush again and drop some water on those. This might make it spread out a little too much on the lighter color, maybe not. Trying to stick with the inspiration. I can tell right now I'm probably going to need some more of the yellow oxide. This white's kind of, or this Naples yellow is kind of disappearing. Could try some of the Naples yellow directly. So let's try that. May as well. We got all the yellows out here. Let me try a little of that. And once again, the small brush to pick up some of that Naples yellow. Oh yeah, that'll give it a little bit of brightness if it'll stay there. Add a little more water to that. Very, very liquidy paint. It's better to start light and then go heavier if you need to on something like this. I mean, nothing wrong with the heavy tissue papers either. I plan on doing those too. Just going to dot that around and then go back to that big brush and just drop some more water on there. I'm only doing the one side. I didn't put these on the other side because I wanted to see how this side turned out. Maybe I'll do the other side a little darker with more of the sienna. So let me get some of that on this brush and do like this. And just get a little bit darker on this side. All All right, let's drop some water on those spots. Well, basically letting it make its own pattern based on what it wants to do. I'm just guiding it a little bit. And then when it dries, it'll be really cool. All right, I'm going to stop right here on this particular one and let this dry a little bit. Let some of this water dry up, and then we'll see how it turned out and if we need to add more. Okay, it's not dry at this point, and I did get a couple of spots here where the paint's on a little bit thicker, so I'm just going to move those little spots around some. Let them thin out some. This may take till tomorrow to dry. That's okay. I do like the way that it's looking color-wise. This area right here looks a little bit light. I could add a little bit more of the, what color is it? The raw sienna in here, just to get a little bit more color in those spots. And then add a little water to move that around. So it does take the tissue paper a while to dry because it's basically sitting in the liquid here. I put a fan on it. I used the heat tool on it. It worked a little bit, but not enough. But I think it's going to look really cool when it gets dry. I have the acrylic so liquid, it's like staining it. Which is what I wanted. These spots right here, I might need to put a little bit of the sienna in between that. And over here it's a little light. So just darken that up a little bit. All right. Now I've got this area too yellow. Maybe some of that Naples yellow in there to tone it down a little bit. I mean, you could sit here and do this all day till you get a pattern that is suitable. Uh-oh, a little too much yellow there. And I'm probably gonna have to have the big brush now to move that around a little bit better. This big round brush is wonderful for doing that. Now I want to get a little bit of the, what is it? Raw sienna. Well, what was the other one? The yellow, I'm sorry, the other one was yellow ochre. I'm sitting here saying raw sienna. I don't want too much of that in there. So basically I'm re-wetting everything that just dried, but because I'm fussing with it. But that's okay. We'll let that soak for a while. What I would like to try, I got 2 more things I want to try. And one thing is the Inktense. So I'm going to switch this around and move this way. I'm going to use this side. I'm going to put 2 more pieces of tissue paper in here. end, we get the Inktense blocks. And the color I'm looking for is the same color of this pencil. It's Oak 1730. And I don't know, on the blocks it's real hard to see. The colors are 1740. Oh Lord. It's probably, this one is, see the colors are missing. I'm thinking it might be this one. And I want to see if we have a purple in here. Now, I explained this in a prior video, but on the Inktense blocks, they're real hard to tell what they're going to come out looking like. So I made a little strip of white paper to paste on the tape on the edges so I could make a mark with each one and see what the appropriate color is that comes out of them. And I'm looking for a dark purple, like the dark purple acrylic. This one right here might do it. That's pretty dark. I'll try it. Why not? It's all about experimenting. So I'm going to keep these two blocks out. And going to wet. Where's my little palettes here? Put them off to the side. I'm going to do the same thing I did with that. I'm going to spray it down with some water. Just to get a head start on getting this paper wet. It'll be interesting to see what these look like when done. I want quite a bit of water on here, because I'm going to drop this Inktense on with the big brush. I'm going to start with this one, which I think is the Oak. I can't read the number on it anymore. That's the only thing about these. It's hard to tell. I try to keep them organized. I'm just wetting the stick and dropping it in there. I do think that's the Oak. So that would be number 1730. Yeah. Get more water on there. The more water you got, the better. Look at that dropping on there and making those patterns. Oh, that's cool. And add more water, and you can even dab it like I did with the other. Try to get close to the edges. Well, that's really cool. Let's see if I can get some more on there, because it's going to dry lighter. Inktense is really wonderful for forming some interesting patterns. And the thing about Inktense is once it does get dry, it will stay that way. You can't re-lift it. That's kind of interesting. And you can also, if you want to, move your tray or whatever you're using around to make the colors move around a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let's try the purple on the other side. Oh, yes. That is a luscious purple. Definitely. I think that definitely will match my colors. Got a little too much there. I'm going to actually drag some of it over here. Of course, this paper is overlapping, so there might be a little overlap there. Kind of creates a, I guess this is like a marbled look. In a way, sort of. I need a little more water here on this section. Ooh, look at those colors. That Inktense is as strong or as light as you want it to be. But it can be very strong. Okay, that's good on that. Don't need to do any more of that. However, I am thinking how rich these would look with some of my favorite gold. This. Which, by the way, I'm expecting a package with some of the textured version of this. It's not here yet. Reminds me I need to keep an eye out for that. I don't want that sitting out in the sun or anything. All right, I'm going to try. Mine's fairly thick. And I'm just going to get some on the brush here. And I'm going to dip the brush in the water and get it real wet. And I'm going to try to just tap some of that gold in through there. See, it's so thick. I'm trying to go in the white areas, but it's so thick, I'm gonna need extra water to move that around. But I do think it'll look really nice and rich and give it some interest. I'm just scooping it out with the brush and tapping it in different spots. And some of that gold will spread out like the little sparkles will spread out amongst the color. I know I've got my arm in the way, so there's probably a shadow. You can press down on the bubbled areas, make them move around. I guess this would be called soaking the collage paper. Try to get a lot of that on there now. Move it around. But yeah, those sparkles are starting to spread out amongst the rest of the color, which is really fun. All right, let me try some of this on the purple side. I'm gonna put some drops of water kind of where I want it to go, and then I'm gonna drop it in there. And then move it around with a little more water. Let it flow where it wants to flow. I like art that creates itself. It's taking the pressure off of me. You know, I've painted realism for so long. It's nice just to play with something and let it do its own thing. But it really does create a nice marble effect. And then after this is dry, I could come back and put more on of whatever, either color or this, when the actual paper is dry. because it will be a totally different application when it's dry. Just adding a lot of water to that brush and touching that tip in there and just gently moving it gets that color to shift around a little bit. Ooh, I'm really liking this with the purple. Trying to get some good bits of it in these spots. And I'm working on where the white's showing, but it's going to run off of there because that's from bubbles, from water being underneath it. See, it's just spreading out. And the more water you add to it, the more it'll move. And you could tilt it and get it to move around. I'll get some good little marks right here in this side. This purple side is overlapping the other side. Just by tapping it in there very softly. Moves it around. Okay. At this point, I want this to dry. I'll close up my gold. I just need to keep my gold here on the table. So now this needs to dry. And then I have 2 more pieces of tissue paper. I would like to do something with this, like I used the other day. So I've got to move this out of the way so it can have time to get dry. And then I've got to put something else down so I don't get paint all over the board when I do these next 2 pieces. But these are some interesting looking pieces so far. I think I like what's going to end up coming out of this once it's dry. Okay, I'll be right back with the other ones. Okay, I'm ready to do these. Now, what I'm going to do first, this will come in a minute. What I'm going to do first is take some of this Titan Buff, which matches this top color here on the palette. I'm going to paint that on here with the brayer, very gently, very lightly, just to give the base of this tissue paper some color. And then I'm keeping this in the neutrals here. The next color, which we'll use that piece of lacy stuff for, is my titanium white mixed with gray. It's sort of a warm gray, and it matches this color. That will go on using that as a pattern, and then I'm going to use some raw umber, which goes with this color. And hopefully we'll get something with some interesting pattern, but right now I need to get some of this down with the brayer, so I'm going to put some Titan Buff on the palette over here and get the brayer coated. Really good, but you know, don't need it on there too thick. See, it's not too thick. And I'll start with this one. And with these, you really need to only pull one way at a time. See, if you try to go the other way from a wet area, sometimes it wants to grab. The goal is just to get some color down. I may need to go this way since it's a little shorter. Just helps get rid of some of that plain white of the tissue paper. But you don't want to go back and forth when you're doing this on this tissue paper because it's real thin and it will tear. But the brayer creates some interesting pattern. I've got it laying on a gray piece of newsprint which I also used to make papers with. I'm going to try to go from this one. Well, I don't know if that's going to work. Over. Nah, that didn't work. Let's try this way. Just go whatever way with the brayer feels the best and doesn't pull off the tissue. Oh, that's pretty thick there. By having it on the newsprint, I can go right off the edges. And I really don't want to squeeze any more tighten buff out. Uh-oh, see, I caught that side by being too close. I thought I was going to be cute and come across, but I don't think that's going to work. I'm trying to use all this paint. See, what I'm talking about is thin. You may have to hold it on a corner just to make sure. I'm trying to use all this paint. And now I'm going a little bit lighter because I want some of that little pattern that the brayer creates instead of going so hard on there. Trying to go off the edges. Not that it matters too much because all of this is going to end up being torn up. I'm going to try to grab this here so I can come right there. Because tissue paper is going to be torn up anyway. All right, let's put that in that dirty water bucket. I know y'all can see that. Sorry, but I got to have it nearby. And I have really short arms because I'm super short. All right, now, what I want to do is I'm going to tap through this. I'm going to lay this on here and using my sponge, dip it in the paint and tap it on. I'm going to start with the lighter color before I go to the darker one. I want to finish with the darker one. So we're going to start on this one. And it's still a little wet, but it'll dry fast because it's just straight acrylic, no water like that other. Let me get this jar open. And I don't know if I can dip in there. I'll probably need to get some of this out with the palette knife. Let's get some out on here so I can dip into it. And the sponge is dry right now, but it'll get wet as I go along. And you can use, this is just a C sponge cut into a little square. And you can use whatever side you want. Because I'm going to be going through this lacy stuff, I want it to be pretty much an edge that's got a lot of flatness to it. And I'm going to lay this on here like this. And I'm going to attempt to hold it down and just start pressing to get that paint to go through this. And then this piece of lacy material will then be coated in this paint. So it will now be a new color that I can use in collages and stuff. But I like the pattern this stuff gives. This stuff is off of a roll from Hobby Lobby. I don't know what they call it. To me, it looks kind of branchy. Get as much paint on there as I can. I'm gonna have to get some more out. Don't have enough, as usual. But I tend to do that. Let's get a whole bunch of it out there. All right. Dip it in there. Smush it down. Technical term. I got a pretty good bit on there now. but I want it to go through those holes and make a pattern. And you don't want this to move, because if it moves, it'll mess up your pattern. And you can go off the edge and blend it in other areas. Now I need to pick this up and scoot it over. But you'll be able to see, it's pretty light. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the video, but you can see the interesting pattern. Now let's use the rest of this up on this side. And of course I'm sticking my fingers on it, so my fingers are also gonna have a pretty good bit of paint on them. But what the heck? That's part of the fun of being an artist, is getting your hands dirty. Makes you feel real. Does me anyway. My hand was definitely involved in the creation of this stuff. Pressing pretty hard to get it through there. And try to take my fingers off of it. Now, I'm gonna wash it in this dirty water with my hands too at the same time. Just get most of that off of there. Some of it's gonna blend with the darker color on the other side, because I should have had a clean bucket of water. Some of it's gonna blend because this still has wet paint on it. All right, put that one aside. Let me get some of the, what is this? Raw umber in this palette. All right, get on there. There we go. Hopefully that's enough. Now I'm gonna peel this up. So that one's, I got a little too much right there, but that's okay. It's supposed to look irregular. So I'm gonna scoot this a little bit. I'm gonna close up the titanium white gray mix. At least I think I am. Get my hands a little cleaner. Okay, now we're gonna do this one. The sponge is a little wetter now, so we're gonna see what happens. And by having too much on the sponge, that's how I get too much in one spot. But that's okay. Like I said, it's meant to be irregular. And of course, this is blending a little bit with the colors that are already on there and in that sponge. But they're all in the neutral family of colors. So that's okay. Come right off the bottom there. You can always add more marks later. I'm going to try to pull this up very carefully. So this piece now has two colors, but you can see the cool pattern it makes, which looks really interesting in collage pieces. All right. Try to tap more of that off so I don't have it so dark. Now my hand's gonna have burnt umber all over it. Not burnt umber, raw umber. Am I the only one that has trouble remembering paint colors? I mean, I look at it and say dark brown. I'm looking for something a dark brown color. Well, there's a lot of paints that can be a dark brown color. but it's amazing how different they are on their shades. So the names, if you're looking for a certain shade, the names definitely are important. All right, get that in the water and get me in the water. I'll let that sponge soak in there. And we'll pull this off. And we have to set this aside. So I'm going to set this over on my palette. There we go. So, does that not, that looks like some kind of animal fur. I'm being an animal person, I'm sitting here looking at that going, giraffe maybe? Something like that. So we've got a light version and a dark version, which these now have to dry as well before I can do anything with them. They have to dry totally, just like the other ones, which are over there still soaking in their color. So I'm going to put a fan on all of these, and then I will make some final pictures after they're completely dry so you can see what they look like. And in the meantime, we're just going to put a fan on everything and see what we end up with. Let's put it that way, what we end up with. So I'll be back in a little bit with some nice pictures for you all to look at. Thank you again for spending time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching a couple ways to make the different tissue papers. And I know you're excited to see how they turn out, and so am I. So we will see.